he was suggesting. On the tuition issue, it was a matter of those who had been in our schools, not people who just showed up at the last minute and said, I'd like to go to your college. These are people who had been educated from the first grade, made it through high school, had been academically superior. It's a typical problem that governors face, and a lot of people don't understand. If you're a governor, by federal law, you have to educate those kids. Doesn't matter what their status is. You have to do it, or you're in violation of the law.
Why did you use the term race baiting and demagoguery?
Well, that was in relationship to his bill because it was pretty clear that it was demagoguery. He wasn't trying to solve anything, and his speeches were so incredibly inflammatory.
Did he say anything specifically racist?
Well, it was to flame the passions of people. I've been very careful to say, look, there are a lot of people who, I'd say probably 90% of the people, maybe 95%, who are upset about illegal immigration, as I am, and it has nothing to do with racism. It has to do with the rule of law and believing that everybody ought to follow it. But I was asked a question, do I believe that there are some people who have racial feelings about illegals? And I said, of course. It doesn't matter whether they're Italians, and it doesn't matter whether they're Irish or whether they're Mexicans. Anybody that denies that there is some tinge of racism in some segments of our society has to be living with his head in the sand.
Well, the only thing I would say is, I guess at this point, I guess most people want to know, for example, and I know you brought this up, it came up in one of the debates that was focused a lot on immigration, and this support that you had of giving tuition aid to illegal aliens and their children, and you said you thought it was morally the right thing to do. Do you stand by that today? Would you support that today if you become the President of the United States?
It wasn't a tuition assistance. It was a scholarship that was academically based. In other words, if you met academic requirements from having been in our schools for your entire education career, and you met the criteria of being drug and alcohol free, having an ACT score of, I think it was 28 or above.
But you're still in the country illegally.
Right, but you were in the country, but your parents made the decision, you didn't. And my point was you don't punish the child for the sin of the parent, and part of the provision was the student would have to be the one who ended up having to also apply for citizenship. Now, the truth is the bill never passed. I've got a better way of dealing with it, and it's outlined in a 9-point immigration plan. I've got it on my website, MikeHuckabee.com. No candidate for president has put out a more thorough, specific, and detailed plan for immigration.
Right. So what would you do now? Well, you say we need to be compassionate to the children who didn't make the choice in this case, but would you still support the idea of allowing the children of illegal immigrants to go to school or to be eligible for this type of aid?
Well, by law, they have to be able to go to school. That's not an issue unless we change that law. You can't not put a child who's underage in a school. The point is, if they've been in your school and then you finally get them to a place and say, but you can't go to college, you'd rather have them better educated than poorly educated. But look, you know how to fix this? Seal the stinking border. That's what we haven't done in 20 years.
Yeah, that I agree
That's
with.
where it starts. Don't have amnesty or sanctuary cities. Our plan calls for a 120-day window where people have to return to their country of origin. They have to get in the back of the line. They have to then reapply. They wait until the people in front of them get processed. They come back, and then if they don't do this process, if they're caught, they're deported, and it takes them 10 years to even be able to apply again. You put heavy fines on employers, and this is beneficial for everybody. It sounds harsh, but the reality is any person living in the United States ought to be here legally.
What should we do?
They put their heads up, not their heads down.
So you would build the entire fence across the southern border?
Absolutely.
And you'd build it would that be accomplished in your first year as president?
Our plan calls for it to be built within 18 months of my taking office or less. I think it could be built in less. You know, the Empire State Building was built in, 14 months? Build it with American labor, build it with American products, and build it now.
But if there still remain kids of illegal immigrants in this country, you think they should be eligible to go to the schools in this country as well?
We solve that problem if we would follow the plan that I've put forth. We solve it because then you don't have people here that are illegal. The problem we've got is the federal government has totally messed this up. They've left states with a huge burden. States now are grappling with what do you do with a mess the federal government didn't fix. So the first thing is, if I'm president, I fix the mess so that my fellow governors don't have to go through and figure out how to deal with this incredible conundrum, on one hand, of abiding by the law that says they have to go to school, And the second, then the sentiment that says, but not too much school, because we want them to just remain in a low-wage position and stay hiding. I think we want people to be legal, not illegal, and putting our plan into place forces people to start this process over, to do it right, and to make it work.